Shooting for happiness. I was having this conversation with a friend this weekend. Was going through a really tough time in his life, and we were talking about the fact that happiness is not the end game, right? The end game is choosing who you're in relationship with. The end game is choosing who you're in business with, who you're in personal relationships with, and having fulfillment. Fulfillment and happiness are two different things. But we think a lot about emotions. That's what we talk about. Well, I'm mad at this person today, so I'm going to end the friendship. I'm going to, this business partner ticked me off, so I'm done. As opposed to maybe stopping, thinking, maybe they were in a really crazy place in their life, maybe there's something more to it, but just thinking it through instead of feeling our way through life. And so we can't do that if we don't stop. Otherwise, we're just going to be reacting to whatever triggers come up, right? The wind blows one way, we jump that direction. The wind blows another way, we jump that direction. Reflection allows these experiences to move from being life markers to life makers. If we pause to allow growth to catch up with us, it makes our lives better. Then he says, number 3, pausing with intention expands and enriches thinking. Okay, this is back to my be a thinker. Here's what he says. Every significant religious leader in history spent time in solitude. Every political leader who had an impact on history practiced the discipline of solitude. Great artists spend countless hours in their studios or with their instruments, not just doing, but exploring ideas and experiences. Think about the leading universities. Their faculty get sabbaticals to do what? Research, think, write. Have you seen a theme here? It's important to take time to think and write. If you're a leader, which you guys are, or you could say if you run a real estate business, you can take the normal busyness of life and you can multiply it by a factor of 10. Maybe even more. Do you think so? Like when you look at your friends that have like, what do we call them, normal jobs? Are you more or less busy than they are?
More.
Typically more, or at least it looks like it, or it feels like it, when you compare side by side. We're so action-oriented, and we have so many responsibilities, right? If you don't take action, people lose money. Deals fall apart. People can be home. I mean, there's serious consequences if we're not action-oriented. So we're so action-oriented, and we have so many responsibilities that we're often guilty of moving all the time and neglecting to stop and think. So he says, when you take the time to pause, use your eyes, and he gives you a couple of little skill sets of what to think about. Number 1, investigate. Pausing means more than just slowing down to smell the roses. It means stop and figure out why they smell. Stop and think and investigate and ask questions. Number 2, incubate. Take an experience of life and put it in the slow cooker of your mind to simmer for a while. This is very hard for any of us. Anybody who knows the ABA that has a low vector 3? Anybody who understands what that means? We don't sit still, ever. We take action. And if you ask us to sit still on something, we will feel like we're about to physically, and I'm not being funny, physically explode. To sit still and not take action it's painful if you have a low vector 3. Many realtors have that behavioral style. So when we say sit and think about it, it's almost impossible. You just want to go take action. We talk about this all the time. Sometimes the best course of action is no action. For a time. Not forever, but for a time. Because we need to think and let it simmer. Have you ever had a problem come up on a deal? You know, your seller calls you or your buyer calls you and this, whatever the situation is, and it's complex and it's challenging. What do we naturally want to be able to do?
Fix it right away.
Yeah, give them an answer, fix it, and say, okay, here's the plan, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then we're going to get this result, and that's going to happen. But sometimes those problems come up and we don't know the answer. Doesn't it feel awful to get on the phone and say, you know what, I need to think this through? Here's what I found. People with a low vector 3, people with commitment to movement, you realize that we're only like 2% of the population. So our need for speed, our need to move, our need to take action is a little abnormal. We're the few and the proud. If Marcy's my client and we have a problem, and Marcy's not a low vector 3, and I say, you know what, Marcy, gosh, here's the situation. Right now, I don't know the answer. Here's what I'm going to do. I need you to give me a few hours. I'm going to think this through. I'm going to come up with a few options. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to get some advice. and then we're going to connect again in several hours, and we're going to talk about the solutions. What did I just do for my client? What is typically the response you're going to get? What was?
Relief.
Why? I just communicated to them, I'm going to think it through, not just fly off the handle. We want to fly off the handle, because it's not because we're bad people, it's just because we want to help and we want to fix. But sometimes we need to think first.
Another realtor.
Well, and that's when you go through the process of incubation. Okay, let me think this through. I've got Mr. Seller out of my ear, yammering away. I don't have the other realtor on the phone hammering at me. I'm going to remove all those pressures and I'm going to think. And a lot of times that's when the solution comes to you. We just don't give ourselves the time to do that. We just want to go take action. Illumination. Jim Rohn says, at the end of the day, you should play back the tape of your performance. The results should either applaud you or prod you. So what he's saying is that that's when you get your aha moments. When you look back on the day and you can say, oh, wow, that happened. That struck me. I just learned from that. What insight do I have? Maxwell says, I find that I experience moments of illumination only after I spend time investigating an idea, then allowing it to incubate for a period of time. But such moments are the reward for committing time and effort to pausing and reflecting. Then he also says the question you need to look at is illustration. Many good ideas are like skeletons. They provide good structure, but they need meat on their bones. They lack substance, and until they have it, they aren't useful. For example, what would a speech be like without good illustrations? It would be like hearing an outline, right? What would a book be like without great analogies and stories? Well, nobody would read it. Author and firefighter Peter Leshek says, all of us are watchers of television, of time clocks, of traffic on the freeway, but few are observers. Everyone is looking, not many are seeing. Look at what's happening around you and understand the stories that are unfolding. You can see so much in life when you really stop and look. I had the joy of being raised by a set of parents who really believed this. We didn't go watch a movie as a family. We went to watch a movie, then we went to dinner or wherever, and we sat down and we were, and I'm not, if I'm lying, I'm not. This is the total truth. We then discussed the world-like view that was put forth by the movie, what truths could be found, and this was like, Kevin Costner, Robin Hood. I mean, it didn't matter what movie we were watching. As a kid, we were taught to think through whatever was coming into our radar. What do we see? What do we learn? What life lesson is there? That's what these guys are saying. Don't just experience life and let it happen to you. Experience life and find out what lessons you can learn. So then he says, good questions are the heart of reflection. And I'm going to fly through these real quickly. There's some questions you need to ask yourself as you think and you reflect. Number one, what is my biggest asset? Put modesty aside. Look inside your heart and say, what's my biggest asset that I bring to the table? And then conversely, what's my biggest liability? Have you ever learned that they're often the same? Sometimes our strong will can be our greatest liability because we run over people because we're so strong-willed. What is my highest high? I mean, for me, that's my family. There's no higher point in a day for me than being with my kids, with my family, with my parents. That's my highest high. What is my lowest low? Incidentally, it can usually be the same, right? Can anybody break your heart like your family can? I mean, nobody has the power to break your heart like your family can. You see your kid make a decision and it just crushes you. Again, your strength and your weakness are always one and the same. What is my most worthwhile emotion? He suggests that love is the most worthwhile emotion. What is my least worthwhile emotion? Most least worthwhile emotion. That's all kinds of superlatives there. What is my least worthwhile emotion? He suggests self-pity. When we experience self-pity, it's the least worthwhile emotion we can have. What is my best habit? What is my worst habit? Maxwell says his worst habit is his impatience. What is most fulfilling to me? What do I prize most highly? Here's the synopsis of all this. It takes a lot of trouble and a lot of effort to stop and think. It's not easy and it's not natural because it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to sit still. And yet it's some of the most valuable time you can spend working on yourself. Because otherwise you go through life and you go through experiences and you go through your business and you go through deals and you get burned by clients or you have huge wins with clients. You raise your children, you go through your relationships, and you just pass through them. If you will stop and reflect, you can gain so much from them and then learn and do it better the next day and the next day. I mean, have you ever talked to a realtor? I mean, Butch, I know you've sat through this before where you know they just saw that